Hey folks, welcome back to Good Enough Customs. So yeah, Steve still in the shop. Yeah, there was something else I forgot that I needed to do to this thing. So I'm gonna get that done real fast. And that is, I gotta replace the socket on this tail light. Yeah, the bulb's fine. Check the bulb, I've checked the socket. Socket's just tired. It's beat up and wore out, so I got a new socket for it. Brake light still lights up, but my running light don't. So I'm gonna get that swapped out real fast. And you know, I totally forgot to swap out the fuel filter underneath the hood. So I'm gonna do that too. So I think once I get done with getting these couple little things done with Steve, I'm gonna pull the new daily in, and we're gonna swap out the radio and put an amp and a sub in it, and get that guy going. Mainly because I've been driving it. You know, I love the truck. It's a lot of fun. It's a nice truck to drive. Really enjoying the air conditioning. But having to listen to the radio is just torture. You know, Nashville, I don't think Nashville goes by Music City anymore, but maybe it does. I don't know. But for it to be Music City, it has the worst radio stations ever. They all suck. So so I can't stand listening to the radio. I even dug out my old CD collection and was throwing some CDs in there, and I'm just like, yeah, these are cool. I haven't bought a CD since like sometime in the early 2000s maybe. So like, I really don't want to listen to all this other stuff again. You know, every once and again's fine, but listening to a whole album is just driving me nuts. So anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and get that done so I'm not losing my freaking mind every single day. So we'll get that guy in here as soon as I get Steve squared away. But this shouldn't take very long, just swapping out the socket and swapping out a fuel filter. That's not much. So let's get to it, and then we'll get the other truck in here and get cracking on that. All right, so I got the fuel filter changed out on Steve, got him moved out, got the new daily pulled in, and started kind of getting all my crap together for the audio side of it. I ended up buying this Pioneer, what is that, the DMX 342EX. I'm not too terribly concerned about all the options and hootenannies and doodads and whatnots on the stereo. It's just, I have a Pioneer in Big John. It's a little higher up model than this one, and it sounds awesome. It is a great stereo in Big John. So this one, I'd expect it to be pretty close, maybe not quite the same. Looking through the stats on it, doesn't have quite as much that you can adjust on as compared to like Big John, but at the same time, Big John's got two 10-inch kickers and a lot more power going through it. And I can't remember what all speakers I'm running in that thing. I want to say they're Starwin Vegas, maybe. In the dash, let's see, they're what, 3.5s in each corner of the dash, and then 4x10s in the back, and then I put another 4x10 in the middle of the dash because I had room for it. Why not? And then the two 10-inch kicker. Don't know what model they are. They're kickers. They sound great in little truck boxes. So originally, I was going to use the SKAR audio subwoofers. These things sound awesome. For the money, they are really, really well worth it. Problem was, you can see the edge of the speaker here is above the rim. And in Big John, that basically sat up against the seat, the back seat, and it didn't have any room to flex. You know, speaker couldn't move hardly. So I ended up getting the kicker. I think they're maybe even low profiles. I don't remember. But they fit in there nice and clean. They sound great. So I was like, all right, well, I'm going to use the SKAR because I had a set of these in the 16. Rest in peace. I had two of these in that with an under seat box, and, you know, it was nice. Sounded really, really good. So I was like, well, I'll just use one of them in this one because I don't have as much room underneath the seat. So ran into the same freaking problem. The cone here is just too tall. So that wasn't going to fit over my lip. So went back to a SKAR, because, well, one, they're cheap, and two, they sound good. I'm not looking for blow your hair around, you know, blow your mind, rattle your feelings type sound out of this thing. I just want, you know, I want a nice bass thud. You know, I listen to a lot of different types of music. A bunch of my friends are always kind of, you know, like, dude, what is wrong with you? Because it's anywhere from bluegrass to Weird Al. I even have a Waffle House jukebox station on my Spotify thing. Yes, Waffle House is on Spotify. It's fantastic. Did you know there's raisins in my toast? Anyways, but, you know, I'll listen to some old 90s rap, early 2000s rap. After that, I'm just like, yeah, whatever. And then get on up into, you know, some good heavy metal stuff and some really, you know, got a lot of bass to it. I really like to hear it and like to feel it a little bit. So the factory stereo in this thing, it's okay, but it's real tinny sounding. It's just, there's not a whole lot of adjustment there. So like I said, I'm not going buck wild on this thing by any stretch. But I have found that the factory stereos just kind of suck. They're mass produced things, you know. They put sound out. That's good enough. No, it's not good enough. So I ought to be able to adjust enough with this guy to make the sound a little bit cleaner on the smaller speakers. Because I've got, honestly, I hadn't even really looked. I want to say, yeah, so it's got like, I don't know, whatever that is, 4-inch door speaker, little tweeter right there. And then I've got these little speakers in the back over here. I don't know if these are the factory speakers or if they've been upgraded. This tweeter looks like the panel's been off, but that could just be they pulled the panel off to repair something. I don't know, but it ought to sound good enough with all that, because I can tune all the bass out of those and just tune it directly back to the sub. So there's a few different things I'm going to run into here. One is the stereo in this guy. So I don't know if some folks aren't familiar with the whole DIN thing, the double DINs, all that stuff. So your DIN stereo, single DIN, is your standard CD player type, you know, stereo that's, you know, what, yay tall. Double DIN is basically double that. Technically, this is a DIN and a half. That would be considered a DIN and a half. It's probably a little bit over that. I know in Big John, with it being a 90 model, it had a DIN and a half factory stereo in it, and I know I preach on not cutting dashes. I'm gonna cut a dash, but but in Big John I did have to cut the dash, but literally took a pair of 10 snips and just snipped on each side of where the radio mounts and folded down maybe an 1/8 inch worth of metal. So if I wanted to bring it back to factory, it wouldn't take nothing. It'd be basically bending that little flat back up and putting a couple tack welds on it, and it's ready to go. So it's a big difference from hogging out a big friggin' hole in the dash. So, but yeah, this is like a DIN and a half, so I will have to cut on the dash on this guy. I know, it's a nice original truck. Shouldn't be cutting on it, but I'm going to. Then I'm going to take, and I've got an amplifier right here, and I'm not spending a ton of money on this stuff, so I'm not even sure if Harmony is a good brand or not, but it's a Harmony 400 watt, what is it, 800 watt peak, maybe 1,000 watt peak, but it's 400 RMS watts. This sub is, I can't remember. Yeah, so this sub is 500 watts. So I'm not going to be overdriving the sub by running this guy. So this should work out pretty good mixed with that sub. I did get a new wiring kit. I bought another wiring kit. It's actually up there on the floor. But I just kind of was like, oh, I need a wiring kit. Wiring kit, boom, buy it, send it. Okay. That one's for like a 1,500 watt stereo system. So it's running like 2 gauge power wire from the battery. And yeah, it's really built out for a big system. I'm not doing that here. So picked up this little guy with a, what is it, 8 gauge, rated for 600 watts. So I'm at 400 watt here, 500 watt there. You know, I'm well within where I need to be. So and this will be a lot easier to run. being that my power cable's, you know, not the size of my pinky. So, so that'll be easier to run. But it comes with the RCA cables, a fuse, you know, a fusible link, some extra fuses. I don't know if this one comes with a remote cable or not. I'll have to look and see, but I don't think it does. It may not come with an actual remote cable, so I may have to just, you know, provide that myself. And the remote cable, all that guy does is literally turn the amplifier on and off. It's kind of like a solenoid. You got a hot, you got a ground, but you have to have a signal wire to say, hey, turn on, and that's what that remote wire does. So if I'd have to, I'll run a separate remote wire. No big deal. That's easy. On the stereo as well, it will do video and all that fun stuff. Now it has an e-brake lockout, I guess you could say, to where it needs a signal from the e-brake to say that, hey, the emergency brake has been engaged, and you can now play video. Well, not that I plan on playing video really ever. There's a chance I might. What if I got somebody's kids in the back and they want to watch a movie or something, and we're on a long road trip, or hell, even my kids, they may decide that they're wanting to watch something, you know, on a road trip or something. I could turn on the video and let them just play. But come to find out, on Pioneers and apparently Alpines, they're looking for a ground signal from the e-brake being engaged. But on Pioneer and Alpines, they look for a pulsed ground signal. So it like needs 2 or 3 pulses in order to say, hey, the e-brake's engaged, you can go ahead and play video. So rather than wiring up just a little rocker switch or some, you know, piece of crap like that, I bought this little guy. Let's see. And this is DIYbypass.com. And I don't know a part number for this. I don't know if it has one, but it's a little emulator basically. So inside that little spot there, it basically sends out a pulse ground to let it think that, hey, this guy's set the e-brake, and it'll let you run video. Now, you can't legally watch video going down the road if you are the driver. Go ahead and say that first and foremost. You get pulled over, it's going to be a bad time. So, like I said, probably won't get used, but I want that option if it's available. So, another thing is I'm kind of bouncing around. I apologize. With the sub box I've got, this is a custom made or whatever, custom built for the OBS Chevys and GMCs to fit up underneath the driver's side rear seat. So it's got the notching and the cutouts, and this guy literally fits perfect. It slides right in, right where it needs to be. Unfortunately, it doesn't offer a ton of room for the subwoofer. So I don't know the specs on this one. I know on that guy, he needed, I want to say it was a little over a cubic foot minimum for it to operate properly. I would assume this guy's probably roughly the same. You can get some pillow fill, you know, the foam, not foam, but it's like the stringy cotton stuff that you get in pillows. They sell it at craft stores and Walmart and stuff like that. And you can actually, you don't want to stuff it, but you can put it in there and kind of fill this guy up with some foam. Or let's see, I've got a bag of it over here. I can't remember what it is. Polyfill, is that right? Yeah, it's polyfill. Yeah, so a bag of this stuff. It's just light, fluffy, fibrous stuff. And just took it and stuffed it in the box. Like I said, I didn't cram it in there, but I did fill the box up with it. Not like, you know, overfill, but got it full of it. So that kind of tricks the sub into thinking it has more room than it actually does. I don't know the science behind it, but I know it does make a difference. Because having that sub in the speaker boxes that was in my other GMC, without any polyfill, it sounded okay. I put the polyfill in there, and it was after putting the polyfill in there, it sounded a lot better, and it sounded cleaner, I guess. So anyhow, I ended up buying this stuff just kind of hodgepodge all around. I think he came off of Amazon. I'm pretty sure it did. The box, that might have been Amazon too. I know they sell these on Amazon. I might have bought it on eBay though. So they have these on eBay and on Amazon. The box is like $79. I think the sub was like right around 100. This was 230-ish. I want to say I paid $90 for the wiring kit and the amp, something like that. And along with Crutchfield, it came with the wiring harness to go from the GM harness to the Pioneer. So I've actually got that mostly wired in. I worked on that last week, and I had ordered this guy and the amplifier and paid extra money for the amplifier to get shipped sooner. And I get the dreaded tracking information from the United States Postal Service. Yeah, that went about as well as you'd expect. I was hoping to have it in like 3 days. That would have had me working on it at the end of last weekend and maybe being able to work on it throughout the week this week. But instead, it took 10 solid days to get here. And yeah, following the tracking information, it was nuts. It went from, it's coming from Missouri, so not that far away. So I went from Missouri to Illinois to Memphis to California, then to Atlanta, then to another spot in Georgia, I can't remember where, then to Nashville, and then back here. So, yeah. Thanks, USPS. Piece of crap. But anyways, I was hoping to have that because I don't want to pull the dash apart multiple times. Just want to do it once and done. One and done. Anyways, so I was waiting on this guy so I could get it plumbed into my wiring harness, which is mostly done. I think I do have to re-snip my ground wire and redo that to include that. This green wire is my parking brake cable, which will go to that green wire, and then my blue wire goes to the remote cable, so I'll have to plug that in to there. But I've also got a tag off of that and that for my remote wire going back to the amplifier to trigger it to turn on. So whew, that's a lot. Y'all still with me? Everybody still awake? That was a lot, I know. So anyways, I guess I'm going to finish up my wiring here and try to hunt down a piece of, I don't need a big gauge to run just a trigger wire. So probably, I don't know, 14 gauge, maybe 16, maybe even 18. I don't know. I'll see what I got. But I'll get all that stuff sorted out so I can get that ready to route. And then we'll get in here and start pulling the dash apart, pulling the old stuff out, and trying to get that stuff set up. So I'll be right back. All right, so went through my amp wiring kit, and it did have a remote wire that came with it. So went ahead, finished getting everything spliced together, went ahead and zip tied everything up in a nice little bundle. I did go back on like my power wires, my remote wire, my constant hot, and the switched hot. And I did run just a little run of tape around them. I'm always a little nervous about just having hot wires just kind of floating around behind the dash. So I know they're heat shrunk, I know they're soldered together, they shouldn't ever have a problem. But just in case, because those heat shrinks got a little soft, so just in case maybe a strand wire poked through or whatever. Actually, I did have a strand poking through on one of those. But snipped it down and just wrapped the whole thing in electrical tape. That way I don't have to worry about it coming loose or rubbing up against something and sparking and causing a fire under the dash or whatever. So so that's done. So the harness is ready to go. That's the radio side. That is the factory harness side, and this is my remote wire, which kind of looks like just cheap half a speaker wire. Doesn't matter, it's not really carrying a whole lot of load to it. It's just, like I said before, it's just kind of the signal to say, hey, turn on. So went through and dug out, like I said, all the stuff for the wiring kit. I've got all that back here kind of sorted out. So comes with the ground wire, my RCAs, and my power that'll go from the battery. And it will need to go through this this little fuse. So it's got a little fuse block. Not sure exactly how to mount that. I guess using these little guys right here. Probably pull the fuse out, run a couple screws down, get it screwed down somewhere, either inside the truck or underneath the hood, probably under the hood. And it did come with some speaker wire, which is very beefy. So maybe I'll use that, maybe I won't. I've got more speaker wire in my cabinet over there in shorter little pieces. Maybe not quite the same gauge as that, but pretty close. So I don't know. We might use it. I've got it. I might as well. So anyways, so now it's time to get into the truck and start tearing the dash apart and pulling the factory radio out and getting all that stuff set up and ready to go. So that's a whole lot of fun in here, because you got to drop steering wheel. If it's a tilt column, you got to put the steering wheel all the way down. You got to put the gear selector all the way in low or number one, first gear, and then you can just pop this frame off. I believe you have to disconnect the connector for the lights. It's been a minute since I pulled one of these down, but I think it's just disconnecting this light connector here, and I should be in good shape. But yeah, we'll go through all that here in just a few minutes. So yeah, here we go. Alrighty. Sorry, it's not the best camera angle, but you know, there's not a ton of room in here to operate. So we'll go ahead and run that guy down as far as he'll go. I guess I can turn off the you know, air conditioning. So put her in drive or low. So that's done. We'll go ahead and set the parking brake just so, you know, she don't roll. And close that so it don't drive me nuts. And then we start pulling. Now, these things, I don't know if that has to come out or not. Doesn't seem like it do. You got to be careful with these plastic pieces. I mean, these things are, well, this is a 98, so it's like 26 years old. So, you know, they can get brittle over time. I know the one in Jackson's truck is really brittle. Boy, that thing don't want to break. There it goes. But the one in Jackson's truck is really, really brittle, and I don't think there's much of this left. It's pretty much all broken off. So the big key is find where your clips are and try to support it from the backside while you pull. You don't want to grab up here and just rip, unless you really want to replace this piece. So there's that. There we go. All right, so, oh, I got to disconnect the, looks like I'm probably going to have to disconnect the airbag, cargo lamp, four-wheel drive, and the headlights switch. So, I'm sure there's not a ton of room to do that. Yeah, there's not a ton of room to do that. Well, I guess the whole module just come out of that one. Works for me. All right. Now the easy part is we just got to pull the old radio out, and it's just going to be a couple tabs here and here. I say that. Didn't you listen to me? I said it's the easy part. There we go. Whew. That guy was a little bit of a bugger. All right, so we're going to disconnect our antenna, wherever that is. There's our antenna. And finally this guy, which there we go. Okay, factory stereo removed. I don't believe we're using this guy at all. I have an extension for this, and this is what our new harness will plug into. All right, so old stereo, new stereo. She don't sit as wide, and just, I mean, just a touch taller. So there will be a little trimming that we'll have to do, but we'll see what we got to do when we get to it. So GM uses this smaller antenna connection, So this is an adapter and an extension. So we're going to hook up the smaller connection. That now gives us the bigger connection, which will go into the back of this guy. We're going to slide this little insulator up on top of that, and then we can tuck that back in the dash. The factory CD player, no need for this guy anymore, so we can pull him out. Again, it's about as difficult as getting the factory stereo out, which can prove to be difficult. Push his little tabs on the side down and start wiggling her out. One side's down. Whew. And my finger's still jacked up from last week, so there we go. Yeah, my finger's still a little jacked up from last week. It only took about 2 days for the swelling to go down. All right. Now this connector, I'm guessing this connector goes straight back and down to here in some really long convoluted pathway. I'm not really concerned with pulling that old connector out. The kit did come with a new little cubby slash tray thing that'll mount in there. I went through and mounted my little side brackets on so where I can just slide her on in there. This guy, this little tray to replace the old CD player, it had a little piece over the front of it. After looking at everything, that part didn't need to be on there, so I just pulled it off. He slid in where I think it should be. We'll find out when we go to put the thing back on the bezel. So so that should be all right. But this guy's good to click in. So what we can do is, in order to test and just verify everything's working and make sure I had the depth set correctly, I unplugged everything and just kind of shoved it all back in here. But now we've got some connections on here. I can hook up the antenna. Don't necessarily have to do that just for testing. All we're looking for is some static, really. I can plug it up, and we don't want to let this guy just kind of float and, you know, hang. That's not good for it. So we'll just kind of let it sit there. As soon as I figure out where I put my keys, we can turn this on. So we got power, that's a good sign. Pioneer, yay. And we've got cool. And since, you know, YouTube's guidelines and all that stuff, I'm not going to play any real music on here. So that's enough of that. It does have a rear hookup for a rear view camera. This truck doesn't have one. I think they look kind of cheap, the little ones that are mounted on the license plate. I don't necessarily need a backup camera, you know, being that I know how to back up using mirrors like, you know, most folks. Nowadays, everybody uses those stupid cameras. But not hating on you if you use the camera. All I'm saying is learn how to use your mirrors, and then you ain't got to worry about a damn camera. Anyways, moving on. We've got to route the remote wire and my RCA cables to the back. So I know a lot of people say you don't run power and you don't run, you know, sound next to each other. I'm not that worried about it. We're not going competition sound system here. So what I'm going to end up doing is there should be plenty of room to go down and back, and we can go up underneath. And unfortunately, it's in a spot where you really can't get a camera in there to look. But I should be able to take this guy back. I'm going to have to go in the back here, over, down, and then I can come across where there's a wire bundle that runs across right in here, around the steering column, and it'll take all the way over to the side and dump out. So if I can just get these two wires just kind of down over here next to the gas pedal, we'll be in good shape. All right, got her fed through. Ended up not going at the top part, going just basically right behind the HVAC controls. There's room there to kind of fish it down. and pull it on through. So now that that's fed down to the bottom side of the dash, I'll go ahead and get my RCA cables hooked up, pull this back up a little bit to pull my RCA cables in, disconnect it, pull my slack back out on my remote wire, and then we can get to figuring out where to run it here up underneath the dash, and then we'll probably just go down the sill plate, pull the sill plate up, and run down that way to get to the back where the sub and the amp are going to live. The main power though is probably going to come in over on the passenger side. Looking on the forums, plus remembering how we did it on Jackson's truck, there's a spot, if I remember correctly, just below the heater core. There's a grommet already there. I can't remember, but I want to say there was a grommet already there. But that's how we ran Jackson's in, was through the passenger side, and then came under the sill plate on the other side and came around. So that's where the main power go, but that's, we'll deal with that later. Yeah, let me get some tape so we can get these RCAs pulled up and get it all sorted out and done. Then we can button up this. That'd be nice. All right, so we are taped up. Let's pull them through. Hopefully they'll just pull right through super easy. Now, the big thing to remember when you're pulling stuff through and you're taped up, big bulbous connectors like that, be very gentle with it. You don't want to go just yanking and ripping and pulling. You want to go gentle with it, try to figure out what it needs, push stuff. I had to push the wiring harness back while I was pulling this up. Another little tip is leave yourself a little buddy tag on your electrical tape, so that way you're not hunting for the end. Just take the end of it whenever you rip it and just fold you over a little flag on it, fold it back over on itself. That gives you a place to just go back and peel it off. Since this is my longest one, we'll go ahead and hook him up first, and then I can pull my slack back on that. Here is my microphone. What was that Beck said? 2 turntables and a microphone? Yeah, something like that. All right, there's antenna. Let's go ahead and hook our main harness up. My USB is probably the shortest out of all of them. And he's probably going to be the most difficult to get plugged in. And there. All right. Now, let's get the slack pulled back. Hopefully we got enough room for everything. Is everybody comfortable? Come on, dude. All right. That's in place. So before we go doing anything else, let's make sure it powers on. It does. We got speakers. So we're good there. Let's put our little tray back in. This guy's kind of weird because he doesn't clip. So I'm guessing that's where he goes. I'm guessing that's as deep as it needs to be. Seems like it sticks out a little far, but we'll see. It may be that this is holding it up. Hang on, let's see. If I put that behind that, can I go deeper? Yes. Okay, good. All right. That went together pretty good. Of course, my airbag sensor switch is broke now, so it's just kind of poking out. So I'll get another one of those. Hopefully I can order another one of those to where, you know, it'll see and not be poking out. Yeah, I'm a little aggravated. They lied to me. The new piece of trim for the stereo didn't need to cut as much off as what I cut. Go figure. More than likely, I probably could have got away with just a tiny little shave, and it probably would have been fine. But just using this piece of thing, I'll show you here in a second. Just using this piece of thing here to measure it out, that didn't turn out quite great. So yeah, you can see right here, there's the top of my HVAC system where that's you know, white plastic. So yeah, that sucks. Oh well, I'll figure something out. I'll probably take like a Sharpie or something and just color that in. I don't know. That might be what I do. Whatever. But yeah, it looks all right in the dash. Let's take it for a test spin. Let's see what she sounds like just as is. So did a little tuning on the radio, just kind of get it set up, and pulling up one of my old videos to play the music on it, because you know, I don't want to get a copyright strike or anything like that. So we'll play some YouTube approved music, but I don't know how well it'll translate over to the GoPro. But it sounds a lot better than it did with the other radio. So yeah, just we'll give it a listen real quick. Not bad. Not bad at all. Still a little tuning to do there. I can adjust on the EQ a little bit. It's still got a little, I don't know, the mid-range is a little high on it, or a little too loud on the mid-range, so I need to bring that down a little bit. Whatever, I'll tune on that stuff later, after I get the sub in. So yeah, so everything's, you know, put together. It looks good sitting in there, minus the white stripe from the HVAC unit. But we'll address that here shortly. So yeah, I guess we're gonna get down here and finish routing our remote wire and our RCA lines, and then we'll deal with trying to route the main battery feed, get that into the back, and we'll get the sub set. Well, we'll get the amp set, then we'll get the sub set, and get everything, you know, wired up and done. So all right, I guess we'll get to it. All right, so for under the dash, and I don't have a light with me, so it might be hard to see, but there's a bar that runs all the way away. You can see the bar pretty easy, but I just zip tied to the bar in a couple spots, and I brought it down. I'm gonna add another zip tie right in here. Tie these guys up somewhere over here so they're not just free floating, but took and tucked it down behind this panel, and then came over here, and this is where factory wiring harness goes, is in this little tray. So just opened it up. It's not real difficult. The screwdriver helps, but just pop it open and lay your stuff in, and then flip it back down. Ran it back to here, up underneath this piece, back behind the seat belt, and then now it's just kind of sitting back there in the floor till I get working back there. So yeah, only thing left to do up here on this side and for this part is put a zip tie right here, right in this little corner, and then put my sill plate back on and get it screwed down good. With those wires ran in this factory tray, that's really nice. You don't have that option on the square bodies, but yeah, that's real nice. So now they're just kind of laid in there. That should be fine. We get that sill plate back down, and we'll tuck it on back once we get in the back over here, and you'll pretty much never see the wires. So awesome. All right, let me get a zip tie and get this finished up, and then we'll go to the other side and start working on getting the main power back. Time to run the power cable from the battery. So it's a chore on these guys. I was sitting there thinking back to when we put the stuff in Jackson's truck, when we ran his wires. You know, Harvey Dent's kind of a beater, so I wasn't really trying to be super clean with everything. trying to be pretty clean with this thing because it's nice. So, you know, we're still going to come over here on the passenger side. So far, here's what we got. Here's my battery. I pulled the air box out. It's over there. Hey, brand new AC Delco air filter. Imagine that. So, pulled the reservoir tank off. It's just 2 bolts, and then it slides down into this little clip here. Just slid him off over to this area, so I had plenty of room to work. The place that we went in with Jackson's is right here with the antenna. And I was messing around with this one and screwed up and punched the boot back inside, which is better than pulling it outside, because I did that on Jackson's and we like to never have gotten that thing back in. The other problem is trying to get that thing just back in and reseat it on this side. I was like, well, maybe I can put a hole through that and run my cable through that existing grommet. But yeah, that's not going to work. I can't even get the damn thing back seated in the firewall again. It's fighting me pretty bad. So I don't know if I might fight it with it a little bit more and see if I can get it through the firewall, and then just punch a hole in it and run my cable through that grommet that's existing, or just shove that grommet back inside the cabin and then put a fresh grommet on the outside, which I'm gonna have to split, which I know that kind of defeats the point of the whole thing. But I do have, and I don't remember where I put it, but I do have some mastic seal that we use whenever I did DirecTV satellite installations. So whenever we had to penetrate the roof or do anything like that, we use this mastic seal stuff. It's sticky as hell, it's thick, and ain't nothing getting through it if you spread it out right. So I do have that option. Like I said, I've got some. I don't know exactly where. It's somewhere in the shop. Push comes to shove, though, I think I can find it. But anyways, so I had to run to the parts house because I don't have any grommets or any that I could find quickly. So that's about a 1-inch hole. And of course, they didn't have a 1-inch grommet. They had a 1 1/4 inch grommet, which is a little big. So I took this grommet. Yeah, it looks like hot garbage, but split it out, and it actually will collapse down, and it pretty well does what it needs to do. Yeah, like I said, it's kind of crappy, but I do have some mastic seal I can put on it after the fact, so I can at least get the cables routed through, get this put in place, and then take some mastic and lay it down, over top of this to give it, a nice weather seal, so I don't have to worry about water getting in and going up underneath the carpet and, ruining the floors. So I do have that. Now, if I had the right size grommet, I could pretty much just disconnect my my antenna cable coming over here inside the fender. Whoop, might help if I'm pointed there. I don't know how difficult that would be. There's an access panel here. So, I mean, and that might be a connection. I'm not sure. It does have like a little weatherproof boot on it, so maybe that's a connection. But if I had the right size, grommet, I may not have to split it. I could just punch my hole in it, run this guy through, run my power cable through, and get it in there, get it seated. Everything's fine. But like I said, they didn't have any 1-inch grommets, so we're just gonna make do with what we got. So I'm just going to use this little 1.5 inch grommet that I've trimmed down, and if I can hunt down my mastic seal, I'll throw it on there. If I can't hunt down my mastic seal, I'll just order some 1-inch grommets, and it won't be nothing to kind of just disconnect all this crap and redo just the grommet side. So so that's what I think. That's what I'm going to do. So we know our pathway. We're going to do this. It's going to come out. It comes out inside, just under the HVAC system. I don't have a light in here, so you may not be able to see it, but it comes in right in this neighborhood, right up in here. So we can take that, pull it up underneath the carpet, run it down up underneath this kick panel, and then pretty much do the same thing as we did on the driver's side. Pull this seal plate up. We can lay it in with the cable tray that goes in, and we'll route it back, pulling up this seal plate, and do the same back to here. And then once it gets up underneath the seat, I'm not too terribly worried about it. It can just be, you know, the cable laying. Maybe I'll dress it if I can get, I believe, yeah, this seat leans forward so I can lay the back down. So if I can get it up underneath something and tuck it and hide it, I'll do it. But if I gotta like start tearing everything apart to do that, I'm not gonna do that. So so yeah, so let me get my power cable, let me get it fed through the firewall, and we'll continue on up here underneath the hood. All right, so well, that's what she looks like. So it's not the greatest, but it'll work. It'll be just fine. There's not a lot of moisture in this area, I would think. You know, now granted, it is where the overflow tank sits, but that guy's piped to blow it out, you know, over here. So I wouldn't think there'd be a whole lot getting in there, but like I said, I've got some mastic seal. I'll close that up with some mastic. You know, and then I'm probably just going to take and zip tie these guys together, so that way they just, you know, it just keeps it there. And then just kind of routed it up here along the side of the fender and brought it up here. It's actually got a spot marked to cut for my fuse hookup. And then I've got enough cable left to come over here and get to my positive. You know, so that works out pretty good. So we come in here, you can see it's coming from back up in here. There's that. So yeah, it's coming up here. So I'll take it, run it down in the carpet, pull it up underneath this kick panel, and I'll pull these sill plates and get this guy routed. And I should have enough length on this guy, because there's a lot. You know, it's probably going to lose a little bit of length after I dress it out, but it goes all the way to that side. And that's where I'm planning on putting the amp, is over here behind the back seat, you know, behind the back. I don't really have room for it down here on the floor. Actually, there may be room right here that I can mount it. I'll have to set the sub box in here and see. I'm thinking the sub box damn near touches the toolbox for the jack and all. But there might be enough room here to mount it on the floor. I was just going to go for the back wall because, you know, it's easy. But that may work out good if that box, well, you know, if it's got enough room for me to throw it down right here. So I don't know. We'll find out here in just a few. So let me get this routed, and then we'll grab the sub box, set it in here, see what it will look like, and see where exactly we can mount this amp at. And then we can start worrying about getting it plumbed up and ready to go. I've got to find a good ground somewhere. I'm not sure where I'm going to find a ground at. Usually I'll use like a seatbelt anchor or a seat anchor or something like that, but they're all pretty well covered. Maybe seat anchor here. Maybe I can pop that cover off and use that cover, or use that seatbelt anchor over there. I don't know. We'll find a good ground somewhere. So all right, let me get this routed. We'll be right back. All right, so over here on the passenger side, we don't have that nice little tray already in here. So rather than just laying bare, you know, cable in here, I got some of this this mesh cable cover stuff. I don't know. It's pretty good stuff. But it is the perfect size for this what was this, 8 gauge cable. So I went ahead and pushed that stuff on the entire length of it, so that'll keep it from having to worry about chafing. So it's not gonna, we don't have to worry about it chafing here in this tray and wearing the insulation down. So yeah, so we're in good shape here. So I'll take it on back there, but I go ahead and put my sill plates back on, and we're moving right along. All right, well, I got the sub box laid in place. That should be roughly where it lives. It might could come this way just a touch, but doesn't really matter. I've got plenty of room here for my amp. Probably just get a little piece of 2x4 or something to mount it to here on the front. That'll keep it, you know, kind of level and clean. And then, you know, that, you know, I say a little piece of 2x4. It'd probably be just a piece of 2x4 temporarily. Till I can find something nice to mount it to. But that'll at least that'll at least get it to where it's, you know, here and it's not moving around and sliding all over and all that fun crap. So, all right, all the cables are routed. Everything is somewhat in place. Got my RCAs routed. I got my remote switch cable, my ground's in, and my hot. Now for the ground, I kind of cheated. I didn't have a ring terminal that was big enough for an 8 gauge. That was also big enough to go over that stud. So I took the cheap way out. I ended up, the kit came with a self tapper. I know. So, just scratched some paint underneath the seat back here. Got my drill out, self tapper, and just sent her home. So, we should have a good ground there. So it's about 10 o'clock. So I'm going to call it a night for tonight. Unfortunately, got a late start today. But tomorrow when I come out here, all I really have left to do is on my ends. I've already stripped them back. I'm going to have to put some solder on these to make these nice and firm. These are a very fine, you know, a fine thread. I don't know what you call it. The individual wires are very, very small. So, which makes it nice because it's really, really pliable. But whenever you go, if you just strip this back, run it in there and screw it down, these are going to end up breaking and you're going to have the ground coming loose or the hot coming loose. You're going to have problems. So I'll take and tin those guys down with some solder to make them nice and firm. And then we'll send them on inside the ground lug and the positive lug and the remote lug and have those guys ready to go. I still got to make the cable for the from the subwoofer to the amp. That shouldn't be that bad. It's literally just going to go from like here to there. So it's not real bad to do that one. And then I've got to do the fuse and finish routing up underneath the hood for the hot side. But that's pretty much it. We're pretty damn close to being done. So I'm gonna shut her down out here tonight, and I'll come back out in the morning. Hopefully fresh as a daisy. And get back to it and see if we can't get this guy finished up. Actually, I know we'll get this guy finished up tomorrow. Probably take it's probably another hour or two worth of work. Just getting everything else sorted out, and then tuning on the amp to make sure it's not overdriving the sub, and you know it's sounding right. So all right, I'm gonna head inside, get me some supper, grab a shower, and hit the sack. So I'll see y'all guys in the morning. Well, good morning. Out here this morning trying to get the wiring completed for the amplifier. Right now I'm tinning the end of the cables, and if you're not sure what that is, that's an old term that we used when I was doing electronics, where you take the cable, you heat it up, and you tin it in with some solder. That way it turns it from a bunch of individual strands into one big strand. Running into a little bit of an issue with my soldering iron. This thing's old. I think I bought it, or maybe my parents bought it for me. It's either back in high school or just out of high school, and it's just not putting out enough heat to really heat up these bigger, you know, these 8 gauge wires. I did the ground wire already. It looks rough. Right now working on the power wire, and it's just not catching enough heat. I'm gonna let that guy sit and cook for a few minutes, because it's gonna take a minute on that bigger cable. I did the speaker wires because my speaker connection, the speaker box connection, is a screw down connection as well. So I grabbed my speaker wire, I brought it over here, and I've already done it. Let's see if we can't. So stripped it back. It's not super pretty. Like I said, my soldering iron's a little old and a little tired, but all I did was get it to where it was drawing the solder down into the threads. So I got it good and hot to where it was able to pull it down and pull the solder in to the threads. So now this is just one big, you know, one big piece. So, and it's down into here on both of them. I think this one drove it down all the way down into here. So so it drew the solder in pretty good, which is what you want. Like I said, that way it's not sitting there with the screw down directly on those individual strands, and then they start breaking off, and then you start having problems where your amp's cutting out. In the past, one of the other things I've done on these is I've taken like a blade connector, and terminate it on the end of the wire. That way you can slide it in there and it contacts the blade, and it's not on the wire. You just crimp it on there. You know, that works as well. But it's been a minute since I broke out the soldering iron. So got the speaker wire done for the amp side of the connection. Got these little connectors put on it, and of course tinned the other end. And that's pretty much it so far this morning. I did all that, got everything stripped, and so that's pretty much it for this morning so far. Is fighting with this guy, trying to see. See, I shouldn't even be able to touch that just yet. It's getting hot. It'll take that a little while longer. If I can get it to where it's not acting stupid like the ground wire did, then I'll show y'all guys what I'm talking about when it comes to tinning the ends, in case you had never seen that or done it. But it's literally, once you get that braid hot enough, it'll literally just soak up the solder. You can just watch it pull the solder into the braids, and it just makes it one big solid unit. So anyways, I'm gonna keep working on this, and once I get this sorted out, I'll go ahead and make my connections on the amplifier, get that part done. That way I'm pretty much done on the inside, and then we can go underneath the hood and we can put in our fuse block and get this guy wired up to the battery. So all right, I'll be back. All right, I was just going to put a blade connector on the remote wire, but upon further inspection, that's going to be that little one in the center right there. I don't have one that small. So so we'll tin this guy down, but like it's a much smaller wire, so it ought to be a hell of a lot easier than those big wires. I was able to get the hot wire done finally. That took some doing. That guy, it dissipates heat very well, so it's hard to get it hot enough to actually start sucking in some of the solder. So this guy ought to be a lot quicker and a little bit easier to get it to do what I need it to do. So yeah, we'll show that here in just a second. All right, we'll get in here real close and personal like. So you just take your solder, let's get a little bit on the iron, make sure she's ready to go, and then you can just sit there and wait for it to build up enough heat. I got a little bubble down here. And that's it. She is tinned up nice, and well, it's hard to focus, but yeah, you can see we've got plenty of solder on there. You can actually see part of the insulation right there has actually been pulled up as well, so where it melted some of the insulation. But that's just, you know, inside that little section right there. So so that guy's good and done. It's pretty much the same process, just a hell of a lot slower for these guys. But super simple. So now I don't have to worry about the wires breaking and you know, the amp cutting in and out and doing some weird crap. So all right, well, I guess we're gonna let that stuff cool off, and then I guess we'll go ahead and start underneath the hood, and then we'll come back once it's cooled down and do the amp, get that guy wired up and ready to go. All right, be back. All right, back up underneath the hood. I grabbed the air box and just kind of set it back in place. I went ahead and bolted this guy in. I can't find my mastic seal, so I'll see if I can find some somewhere and snag some. But it's probably hiding in a box somewhere. So anyhow, put the air box back in, just kind of set it in place right now. Trying to figure out where to mount my fusible link. You know, it's fairly good size. It's, you know, not huge, but you want these guys mounted in a spot where you can still service it if need be. So I was looking, you know, down there on the inner fender was a possible location. I got enough room in front of the battery between it and the air box. There's enough room there. And I was trying to stick with, this power cable's already got some heat shrink set up with, you know, that's where you're supposed to cut it for your fusible link. So it's got that set up so it won't fray and, you know, do the weird stuff. But that really limits me on where I can put it, because it only leaves me that much tail, so not a ton of tail. So putting it here would be great for this length right here, but if it ever popped a fuse, I have to take the cover off the air box, the filter out, pull that guy off, unbolt this guy from underneath inside the wheel well, and then fight to get this thing out, because this thing's, you know, pinched in right here. So it's not easily accessible right there. So back here though, I've got all sorts of room. So I've already kind of marked out with some chalk, or with a grease pencil, where I'm going to put it. It's going to be on this inner fender down low. I could access this with the airbox in place. The only downside is I'm going to be cutting this guy away from my heat shrinks and all that stuff. That's no big deal. I can just wrap it with some tape, and that should take care of it, keep it from, you know, pulling back and doing all this stuff. Is just a protective layer. It's kind of like what I did on the inside when I was running it down that channel. I put that same type of material on it just to keep it protected from chafing and, you know, doing all that bad stuff. So I guess what I'm going to do is get this airbox back out of the way, and we'll cut this guy and we'll get him stripped back, and probably ought to tin the cables as well, because these are screw down clamps. Unless I've got a ginormous blade connector. I'm pretty sure I don't. But yeah, we'll probably go ahead and tin those so that way they don't work loose, because that'd be a bad thing if the one directly off the battery worked loose and basically shorted out underneath the hood and, you know, melted the wire, started a fire, and did all that. So I got to pull this fusible link out. I've got a couple holes right here for some self-tappers. Oh, get it in the camera. I got some holes right here for some self-tappers, but to access those, I got to get the fusible link out. So let me get that out of the way, and we'll get this guy. We won't mount him up just yet, but we'll get him kind of set in place to figure out where we need to cut our cable, and then we'll work on stripping everything back and doing what we need to do there. So, all right, back at it. All right, got my ends tinned up, ready to go. It actually sucked the solder all the way back to, well, get it in the camera. It actually sucked the solder way on back in there. She's nice and firm on back. So I can go ahead and get my ends kind of loaded up and get this guy cinched down. Actually, take that back. I gotta route this one because I was coming under this. That one's in there. Go ahead and get this guy in. This one was a little uglier once I got her done. But again, it sucked it. This one actually sucked it clear back to here. So we got good strong wire. I don't have to worry about her coming undone. So now that's set. So now I just got to get this guy screwed down. And we'll do that with a good old self-tapper. Maybe. All right, so we got our main, you know, power fuse set in place. Those wires don't seem to be wanting to go anywhere, so that's good. That should tuck in there nicely. We're gonna wait on putting the fuse in until I get it hooked up to the battery. So while I was waiting on those wires to heat up so I could actually tin them up good, I actually went ahead and connected up the amplifier. So I ended up wiring up the amplifier while I was waiting on those guys to tin up. So I got my power, lugged down. I got my ground lugged down. I ended up having to tin this guy for my remote wire, got him down. And then now I'm working on the speaker wires, because I don't know why they gave me those little blade connectors, but they don't fit nowhere. So so I ended up having to strip them back down, tin those ends, and so we'll run those guys in here in just a few minutes, and then we can get the amplifier kind of set in its place, and then hook up the power and see if we let out any magic smoke. So this power is going to be a pain. That's going to be a little bit of a chore, because I don't know if this end is going to be big enough. I hope it is, to go around that, slide in here, maybe in the middle, do something, so I'll monkey with that here in just a minute, and we'll get that hooked up, and then we'll get the speaker cables hooked up and get everything else, pretty much plumbed up, ready to go, and then it'll just be turn the key on and see what happens. So all right, let me fiddle with this, getting this power cable hooked up. I wish there was a distribution block over here. That was one of the nice things about that 16 GMC, was right off the battery, which I think the battery was right here. Right off the battery, there was a big distribution block that you could tap into, so you didn't have to pull, this. So it was really nice. I don't see one in here. It doesn't matter. I don't have the cable for it. So, we'll just do what we got to do. Just hook it straight to the battery. Should be fine. So, all right, let me monkey with this battery, get this guy hooked up, and I'll catch up with you in the cab. All right, well, that was an adventure. So, finally got the battery cable thing sorted out. So, we've got this nastiness to deal with. Trying to fit this little guy in there. You wouldn't think it'd take up that much room. It was basically just enough to where the battery lug, this guy, it could barely get a bite. I tried to force it, ended up pulling a thread. So I went and found a bolt. Definitely not the right, not the right scenario here, but it's good enough. Found a bolt that was a little bit longer. I used a little, I think it's an aluminum spacer actually, and a washer to make up my difference. Put him here, because if I put him in here, he was, bunching this up really bad. So bolted my new cable up right here, and was able to get that guy threaded in there and tightened down to where this stuff's, not moving. So I got it all routed. Everything's ready. All I got to do here is hook up my fuse, and then we can get inside and get everything else going. That was a chore. Of course, the end here, the pre-terminated end, wasn't the right size, so I had to drill it out, and that made a mess. Bent it all to pieces, got it bent back the right way, and luckily I had my teeny tiny little file and was able to file it out enough to get it to slide over the bolt. So all right, let me get the fuse in, and then we'll head into the cabin of the truck and finish up in there. All right, all my connections are done on the back. Everything's screwed down good. I still have some slack, which that's fine. I'll probably take and just coil it up and set it back here with a zip tie on it or something. That way it's out of the way. But if I need to pull the amp out to look at something or do something, I can just snip that tie and pull it out, and everything should be fine. That cable I'll just route back over that way, because the plug-in for the sub's way over there. So we'll get that done, and then we'll turn it on and see what happens. All right, so got everything installed. There we go. Got that guy set back there. Got that guy wired up. Like I said, I still got to clean up the wiring there. Get all the excess tucked back and away. But I've been sitting here tuning on this guy, trying to get just the right balance. This sub and amp setup is awesome. This hits harder than any 10 I've ever had. This actually hits about as hard as Jackson's 12. It's pretty awesome. But this thing sounds fantastic. I've played a bunch of music. I wish I could play it I wish I could play some of the music I've been playing on YouTube, but again, copyright strikes and all that crap. There's a couple songs that are sounding really, really great on here. Like I said, I listen to a wide variety of songs, bluegrass. I love Weird Al Yankovic. That's one of my favorites. You know, getting up into the heavier metal end of things, listening to some of the rap and hip hop stuff. You know, it's all over the place. So I've been playing a bunch of different music, trying to tune it to make sure I get the best all-around sound. I can tune this thing for the hip-hop side of things, and it is, I mean, it's rattling everything in the shop. It's really impressive. But that's not what I'm out for. I just want a good, clean, hard-hitting sound. And I think I've got it adjusted just right. Again, don't know how well it'll translate back to you know, the GoPro here, but I pulled up one of my old videos. It's got some decent music to it. It's got some bass to it. It's got some highs and some mids and stuff. So but it's just, you know, it's non-copyright music, so I can actually play it. So like I said, don't know how well it'll translate, but it sounds pretty good. So yeah, here we go. Yeah, I can't express how good it sounds fantastic. I don't think I've ever put a system together that sounds this good. You know, like I said, the one in Big John sounds great, but for this just being factory speakers, at least I would imagine they're factory speakers, with just a 10-inch single sub, it sounds phenomenal. You know, it was funny because my little bottle here was literally sitting here shaking and rattling like that when I was playing some of the hip hop stuff. So, yeah, she gets down. All right, so the sound is amazing. Still got a little cleaning up to do, getting those wires cleaned up and laid back where they need to go, so they're not just laying in the floor. I still got to get over here and get my air filter box and all that crap put back in, get that stuff sorted. That'll take me like 10-15 minutes to get all this stuff knocked out. Won't take too terribly much longer, but I've got to close this one out because there's a fair amount of editing to do, and it is Sunday. So if I'm gonna get this thing out for tomorrow, I gotta hustle. So oh, by the way, I did finally get Steve out on the road. Drove him yesterday to the parts house, and yeah, it was the fuel pump for sure. Rolling about, I don't know, 60-ish, and allegedly laid into the throttle, and boy, she hopped up and got damn near triple digits in a hurry. So yeah, Steve is running like it should, so I was pretty pleased about that. So I can get Steve back on the road and continue enjoying that truck and not have to worry about, is this thing actually going to make it up a hill? So, but I do appreciate y'all guys watching. Tune in next week. We'll probably be working on Big John next week. I've got a radiator, a starter, and I need to do something about that paint. So that's probably what we're going to do next week. If y'all guys like the video, be sure to hit the like button. That just helps with the good old algorithm thing. And if you made it this far and you haven't subscribed, just stop what you're doing. Hit the subscribe button. It takes 2 seconds. And it doesn't cost nothing. All it does is help to grow the channel and promote the channel out there, and, you know, let more people see it. I do appreciate it, folks, and look forward to seeing y'all guys next week. And just remember, it ain't got to be perfect. Just good enough. And yeah, we'll see y'all guys next week.